All right, we're beginning. Mixed economies. So mixed economies is the middle ground. For our definition for the class, we'll look at it as the middle ground between the free market and the command economies of communism and socialism. So this is like the middle ground. In a mixed economy, there will be some central planning. There will be some central planning. An example, public schools have central planning. A public school like the Minneapolis Public Schools has central planning. There's people who are chosen. They're supposed to plan out goals. They're supposed to achieve something. It is a form of central planning. The park board, they're centrally planning the parks. It's not based off of self-interest. It's not based off of profit. It is central planning. It is part of the command area. Does that make sense?
Don't they in a way benefit from that?
Well, we do benefit. I mean, you can benefit from central planning. You can.
Wouldn't that be a way of self-interest? Like you're helping, but you're also doing.
Oh, good point. Going outside of profit. Is it self-interest because you're helping? You could say so. But the main point is there is some central planning. But there's also free market. There's also private things in a mixed economy. McDonald's. It's a private company. You can have that in most mixed economies have McDonald's. If you go to anywhere in Europe, which is mixed economies, United States is a mixed economy, you have McDonald's, you have private companies. IKEA is a Swedish company. Sweden has a mixed economy. IKEA is a private company. Let's take the example of Sweden, though, when we're looking at our mixed economies. Sweden, a lot of people think they have it figured out. The thing in Sweden is you're going to pay high taxes, higher than the United States, but you're also going to get a lot of things. Here are some centrally planned things that Sweden has. For example, the government in Sweden owns 1/3 of all their companies. 1/3 of the companies that make and distribute things are owned by the government. So if they're owned by the government, how do they plan things? It's done by central planners. So 1/3 of the companies are run by the government. And they also central plan free child care, ages 1 to 5. Free school, 6 to 16. And then free college for those who have proven the ability to go to college. So your college is free if your grades are up. Does that make sense? It's a pretty big incentive to keep your grades up. I don't know. I'd have to get into the details. It would be a good research option for college. So in Sweden, there is some free college for those who have the grades. There's free health care in Sweden. There's no private health care. You have government health care. When you're born, you have health care.
Do you have dental?
I believe so, yeah. Free dental and health care. You have health care taken care of. Now, you might have to, if you want to get a certain operation and it's not necessary, you might have to wait a long time. Because they'll give priority to the people who need it first, then the most needy first.
So about how much more do they pay after taxes?
We're going to get to that in a great question. Can I get that in just 1 minute? Great question. All right, so also family leave. In the United States, there's no family leave in the law. There's no family maternal or paternal leave. So if a mom wants to take off work because she has a baby, there's no law in the United States that says companies have to give time off when you've had a baby. There's no law in the United States that says that. Now, every other, what we would call the more richer countries, the westernized or industrialized countries, Europe, Japan, Australia, every country like that has maternity leave or paternity leave for fathers, where you have a baby, you can have some time off, and you get paid. Now, a lot of companies will give that, but they do it privately. It's an incentive to work for that company that they have maternity leave. But in America, there's no law in the book. I'm going to get your question in a second. In Sweden, here's what they do. In Sweden, parents get 480 days of parental leave, the mother and the father, per child. It has to be claimed before the child turns 8. So from 0 to 8, those 8 years, you get 480 days where you can say, I got to go watch my kid. And you get paid. For every child. So, That's what exists in Sweden, along with the free school, not just school, free daycare, ages 1 to 5. So you have free day. So if you have a kid in Sweden, just telling you, this is one advantage. This is a big advantage. I'm going to get questions in a minute, okay? This is one huge advantage. One huge advantage is that you could have a kid, put them in your free child care from age 1 to 5, and still take time off if you wanted to take time to be with your kid. All the way up till 8 years old, and it's 480 days. But to answer your question, how much taxes do they pay? Such a good question. In Sweden, many people in Sweden, I wish I had an exact number, but many people in Sweden pay up to 60% of their income in taxes.
What?
So you get a lot, but you have to pay a lot. On the spectrum of mixed economies, from free market to command, Sweden's probably somewhere around here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sweden's probably somewhere around here. Now, they still have IKEA. IKEA's a private company. They still have many other private companies that can exist there. However, the private companies also typically pay more in taxes.
But the owner from IKEA, he lives in a different country.
He doesn't want to pay Swedish taxes, so he lives in a different country. So sometimes what can happen is, places like Sweden, they say it's not a good place to start a business. So people in Sweden, they fear that people who want to start a business will move and leave Sweden to start a business somewhere else. Does that make sense? That is a complaint. Very good. Here's what I'm going to do. So that is what mixed economies are. So again, just what would a mixed economy look like? Just got some pictures up here for you to get visual images of it. You would see something like Social Security is more of centrally planned. The government taking money out of your paycheck without you asking, putting it into a fund for retirement for people. That is definitely centrally planned by the government. All right? However, many people would say, you know what, it's good that people get to retire, and we typically aren't responsible enough to put our own retirement money away when we're young. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I kind of like the fact Social Security exists because I don't think I would do the best job. Let's continue. We talked about the maternity leave, taking time off, but there's also private things. McDonald's is a private company. You can find McDonald's all over the world. It is a private company. It can be in a mixed economy. It's not government owned. The person who owns McDonald's is making a crap load of money.
Who's that?
I have no idea. You can look them up. So, 30-second Google search would get it for you. All right, and here we got Coke, another private company. Coke is a private company, makes a lot of money. They're very efficient. People like to buy it. However, 160 calories. That's not free market. That's more of a command economy thing because that is a regulation. That is the government saying, no. You have to tell the people how many calories are in your product. Why do they do that? Because the government says, hey, we want to make sure people are healthy. If they see how many calories are in this, maybe they won't want to buy it.
They still buy it.
Well, that's a good point. They still do buy it. Now, having 160 calories on there is a regulation because it's for the government to tell people, here's how many calories are in here. Now, why do they do that? Because there's been a lot of facts that have shown drinking too much Coke can cause you diabetes or obesity. Because it's calories that give you no nutrition at all. And many people, if you have 3 or 4 Cokes a day, you're taking 25% of your daily calories with no nutrition, only sugar and other crap. And lastly, public schools and private schools. Public schools are definitely more on the command side, centrally planned. Governed by the government. Private schools are, that's free market. Does that make sense?
Well, don't they have like a lot of laws made by the government? So wouldn't it kind of be communism?
Well, the thing is, it's a spectrum. Here's the number one thing I want you guys to know right now. There's no such thing as a communist country in reality. No one's communist. However, there's also no such thing as a 100% free market economy. They really don't exist in the extremes. All of us are somewhere on this spectrum, every economy in the world. Does that make sense? If I was going to put Sweden somewhere, here I got the mixed line. Sweden's close to the middle, maybe even a little bit more to this way. Does that make sense? That's where I'd put Sweden. I'd put Sweden somewhere around here. We have communism. Socialism's probably somewhere around here. Some people would say Sweden's following socialism to a certain extent. I would say there's still more of a mixed economy. But but they're like in this ground right here. Does that make sense? Socialism is when everybody owns all the means of productions.
What does that
The
mean?
production, the government runs it. What does it mean? It means pretty much like if you have a company, the government owns it,
So like,
and it's for everybody.
so everything will be free or what?
Well, no, it's like healthcare. Take the healthcare example. If there's free healthcare, that's really a socialist idea. Because the
So like-
government owns it, and it's for
So
everybody.
like everything, if everything here was socialism, like McDonald's would be free.
If it was pure socialism, everything would be owned by the government to give for everybody. Does that make sense?
So free.
Potentially for free. For free or for, they could still charge, but it'd be owned by the government for everybody. Could it be free? Yes. Could it be low cost?
But will we get paid less? Oh my God.
Say it again?
Will we get paid less?
Typically in a socialist economy, you wouldn't necessarily get paid less, you would probably get taxed more. Does that make sense? You wouldn't get paid less, you'd probably get taxed more. However, there's not even really like a pure socialist country that exists. We're usually somewhere in the spectrum right here. So Sweden, here. Now let's take a look at the next part of our paper, which is, mixed economy by definition, real quick. Combines features of both modern command and market economies, if you want to write that down. Combines features from both modern command and market economies. The state, when I say the state, that pretty much means the government. Whenever you hear someone say the state, they're referring to the government, not like Minnesota. The state controls some parts of the economy, regulates others, and most economic activity is determined by individuals. What it means is some things like healthcare are for everybody. But the government really doesn't care if you want to start your own restaurant. Mixed economies, kind of the goal is, if I was going to say it, hey, Jesus, mixed economies, the real goal is to have the needs be met, the needs for everybody, but the wants, you can do what you want. Does that make sense? Take care of the needs, but let the wants, like, you want to start a fast food restaurant? Yeah, go for it. But healthcare, will be more government run. Does that make sense? Go for it.
So you said like public schools are government run, and then private schools are what you said, and then I went to charter school. What is charter schools?
Charter schools are government-run school, which is actually a good example of mixed economy. Because charter schools are, technically they get money from the government, but you can also fundraise money on top of it. And you don't have to follow the rules as strictly.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a mixed. Charter schools are like mixed. It's actually a good example of a mixed, part of a mixed economy could give you charter schools. Go for it.
Yeah, like that.
So could you like pray, have people pray in a charter school?
In a charter school, probably, I would have to say no. I'm 95% sure it's a no on that one.
On what?
I'm not 100% sure. Maybe there's some weird exception out there, but I'm pretty positive it's a no.
On what?
That you can't like pray you couldn't like lead a prayer in a charter school.
Why?
About-
Well, because there's separation of religion and the school. I'm going to move us ahead because we're starting to do what I call get off in the woods, where it's no longer about our assignment. I want to get us back to our main topic.
So what?
We're going to move up to the American economy. And let me pause the lecture again here.